Welcome back to Rise and Shine, the Ability Connection Colorado podcast. And today we're going to embark on an incredible journey, an informational one, an inspirational one. It's going to get emotional too. I do. And please, you're welcome because these stories are emotional. We're going to be talking to families around the world who've had their children's lives likely saved by ISOP, the Infantile Scoliosis Outreach Program, and its Meta casting, which was 20 years ago, was brought to America by Dr. Min Mehta, who was discovered by Heather Hyatt, who runs ISOP, who's the sole employee and leader and inspirational wonder of ISOP. And she and her daughter Liv looked for some way to treat infantile scoliosis. Liv is no longer with us physically, but oh, most certainly emotionally, spiritually, medically, inspiring all these people you're about to hear from. If you're looking for a place to support, ISOP runs solely on donations, and it has this clear connection from your help to solutions, to the treatment that people need for their kids. And you're going to hear those stories, and they're incredible with amazing people. So let's get started with Mel. There's a lot in your story. I loved reading the synopsis you sent me.
Yeah.
I want to get to, of course, I want to talk about your son, and I want to talk about Dr. Min Mehta and the Meta casting. And there's this other thing that sticks out, which more people should do, even though it can kind of be a little scary. But you straight up advocated for yourself because you had a doctor, right, that was trying the Meta casting, but not doing it right.
Yeah, well, I have this problem, and my dad says I don't have any shut up in me, but that's a good thing at times. Yeah, he received it very, very, very well, but I think I sent you pictures kind of the chronological timeline of the casting of my son, which I had never put side by side before until yesterday or today. And as I look at it, I'm like, wow, the difference. But yes, the very first cast he put on him immediately, I was like, no, this is wrong. So I was like, okay, how am I going to handle this? Because we can't keep going this way, because I know there's just this small window of time that we have. And I don't have time to let time go by without saying something. So,
well, it's very appropriate. You're sitting in front of a clock too. I feel like I'm in some kind of wormhole.
Well, they're all over my house, to be honest. They're everywhere.
Well, and it does really come down to time here. You are running out of time to really make this work. Yeah. And what another thing that struck me about it is you talk about how you'd done the research and how Heather trained you so well, or you knew how to do it so well. You had the confidence to tell this doctor, like, wait a second.
I actually went in there with Dr. Mehta. I say it wrong every time. With her actual literature on casting, proper casting, and I highlighted the areas that I felt he did not properly do. And so in pre-op, I gave him the paperwork with the highlighted areas and pointed out everything that I felt he did not do properly. And I asked him to please fix these things during the cast that he was just about ready to put on my son within the next 30 minutes.
That is so inspiring.
My husband was like, I can't believe you did that. And I was like, oh, yeah, I can believe I did it because we have no choice here. So, but you know what? The doctor, he was so receptive to it. Most doctors, I've worked for doctors many years prior to that, and they are not receptive typically. But great bedside manner, we'll call it that. But he was very receptive to it. He listened, and he actually listened, and he fixed what I had issues with. And every cast upon that, he got better and better and better. And as I put every cast next to each one that he has done on Isaiah, you could see how he became more and more experienced and applied the cast properly each time.
So how did you come across Heather?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I went in, took Isaiah for his 6 month well baby check. So I had a perfectly well baby for 6 months of his life. Um, and we had a pediatrician who noticed that he wasn't sitting yet. And she was very keen, very green doctor as that goes. And she just ran her fingers up and down his spine. And she ordered an x-ray and thought he might have scoliosis. Well, of course, I'm like, this is ridiculous, because all I knew of scoliosis was pretty much what everybody knows. You know, it's in adolescent girls and you get checked for it in high school. A baby with scoliosis? Really? I don't think so. So I didn't rush him that day to get the x-ray. We went, a day or two later, and he was at a 12-degree angle is what they had told us, which I think over 10 is considered scoliosis. Is that correct, Heather?
Over 7.
Over 7. Okay, so he was at 12. So still, I was like, okay, not that big a deal. But they referred us to an orthopedic doctor, surgeon, and that's where we began with the wait and see.
Yeah.
And her doctor, he was a young surgeon then, Jared, and I had just brought him in to his hospital, so he was able to meet Dr. Mehta. And I don't know. Once you meet Dr. Mehta, I don't know. Once they all met Dr. Mehta, they all seemed to be a little more receptive.
Well, Dr. Mehta, it sounds like she's got some riz here, to use my middle schooler's lingo, because to be able to come in from another country, and surgeons are known to have some egos, and have them be convinced by her.
Yeah. That's our little mini Min. She really knew her stuff.
So, Melissa, you're on the path with this surgeon, and at some point, I know you're about to discover Heather. Like, are you getting options that you don't like at this time, or?
It's such a story to begin with. So, before we saw the doctor that did the casting, we had seen another orthopedic doctor who wanted to do the wait and see, but he did order a MRI of the head and spine. Then it was found my son had something called a Chiari malformation, which is in the back of the brain. It's kind of where the brain kind of herniates down into the spinal cord, and it can block the cerebral spinal fluid. It's typically not, well, it's not always requires surgical intervention. Some do, some don't. But my son, true to form, go big or go home. So required surgical intervention. So we saw the casting doctor first. He says, I'm not touching him until he gets surgery. So now I'm like, okay, now I got to hurry up and find a neurosurgeon that I will let do brain surgery on my son and hurry so I can get him into a cast as well. So.
Wow. So you've just come in at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yes. Like I said, I had 6 months of a well baby. So I found a neurosurgeon, had the brain surgery done. It was a success. That was on Isaiah's first birthday. I think at the last time we knew, his scoliosis curve by then was in the 30s. That was just what we kind of knew. So we did his brain surgery when he was a year old. And exactly a month later, we got medical clearance and he was casted. So brain surgery was in August, and he literally got his first cast in September.
And what degree did they start? Did the doctor start casting? I forget.
60 degrees.
So he's at 60 degrees?
Yes. I think
like 50.
I think
and we were just at 12.
Yes. At 6 months, he was at 12. At 13 months, he was at 60. That is how.
So everybody knows, we're talking about this child's spine at this point.
Yes. And that is exactly how rapid it can go. And you do not have time to wait. And that's why I will tell any doctor or any person in the whole entire world that you have to do exactly what this paperwork says from Dr. Mehta or there's no hope, or the hope of correction is lower than what it could be.
Exactly.
Great.
And Heather, and what you're seeing, are you like, this is how it's done? Like, Mel, you're doing it right.
Well,
Every
I had
step of the way. Absolutely. Just rallying her at every step. Read the articles and highlight it. Point, look at every edge of the cast. Write down what you don't like.
But I had to know all this information, of course, before I went in there. I didn't just, walk in there and have it in hand. What I did was, when I found out scoliosis in babies is a thing, I Googled and Googled and Googled, and this was before Facebook. This is before social media. Social media was in its infancy as well. So I'm going to town, right? And I'm like, nobody has heard of this. I just got done researching a Chiari malformation. Now I'm doing this infantile scoliosis that I cannot find anywhere online. And lo and behold, there's ISOP, Infantile Scoliosis Outreach Program. Bam. I was like, this is a miracle. And there's this site and this pretty little crooked flower. And then there was pictures of these babies, and they're in casts, these horrific casts. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. It looks so horrible. I can never do that to my kid, because the first impression is so scary. So scary. But once I got on the site and started talking to parents and listening to Heather and reading and reading and reading, wow. It's amazing. And it's not scary.
That is something I've wondered, because to me too, it looks a little scary. Your kid's going to be confined in this cast. And so you had to go from this place, and this is props to you, Heather, but you have to go to this place of, oh my gosh, to let's do this. Well, Heather, you and that website you put up in 1998. Well,
Right.
so there's a lot of talk about travel. Did you and your family have to travel a lot for this?
We did. Initially, we were in Texas. So the hospital we went to was located in Texas. So travel was only a couple of hours. But then my husband, his job was transferred back here to Kansas, where we live prior, where we're from. So we had to travel from Topeka all the way back to Dallas every 8 weeks. So, wow. Yes. And on top of that, we also had to go to Austin for follow-up visits for the Chiari malformation of his brain as well. So it was a pretty long trip every 8 weeks, to have Isaiah recasted, because you have to get the cast, of course, redone as he's growing. And they grow very fast in this age. And that's the whole purpose of the casting, is to catch them in that growth phase. So yes, getting the money and the time off work for him, and wow, but people set up GoFundMe pages that I didn't even know about it. I mean, it was just amazing, but we made it.
So people are noticing and they're pitching in.
Absolutely. Yes. It was amazing. Absolutely.
And how is Isaiah handling this as a baby? I mean, he's 8 months old now, or
he was 13 months old when we started casting. He handled it like no big deal. He learned to walk in it. He learned to run in it. He learned to climb, everything in it. And he used to love to, it kind of looked like when he had a t-shirt on, it looked like he was wearing like football jersey underneath his shirt. And he loved to just ram into he'd like to use the front of it and ram into people when they were in his way, So he took full advantage of that cast. So
good.
Yeah, the only time he really was upset was when they took it off. That was pretty much the only time he cried about it, was when they removed it.
Because of the saw?
Because of the saw, yes. And then he was used to having that body armor. And to add on to this, he was also diagnosed with autism when he was 2, which was very early at the time to be diagnosed, I knew, but to get an actual diagnosis. So having that hug kind of pressure on top of, you know, the cast itself, he really liked that. So having that removed as well. Yeah. So double whammy for him. He didn't like the saw, and he liked his hug, and he didn't get to ram people anymore. So, you know, he wanted that cast. Yeah. So yes, he adjusted quite well. He did everything in it, just like any other kid meets their milestones. Just a little slower, but
yeah. And for how long did he have to go through the casting process?
I believe 14 months or so we went. But as he got older, of course, his growth rate slowed. So we didn't quite have to keep going every 8 weeks. We could spread out a little bit further. And then, of course, after the cast was off, we would have to go back, you know, for follow-up visits, x-rays, just to make sure he was holding, you know, after cast was removed, because we didn't want to slide back on our numbers, of course.
Well, and then at this point, how are you holding up?
Well, I'm still like, okay, wait, what? Because, you know, it's been 2 years at best, and I've had a Chiari diagnosis, infantile scoliosis, and autism. Not to there's other little things thrown in there that are insignificant at this point, and it just hasn't slowed down. So neither have I. I'm just like, okay, next thing, you know, just keep going. You got to tackle what you got to tackle. And, you know, I see people so worried about things like, oh, they're doing too many x-rays, or, you know, they're worried about this, that, you know, and I get it. But I guess for me, having diagnosis after diagnosis after diagnosis is the one thing that I would give advice on, is just focus on the now. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about later, the what ifs with the x-rays. Focus on what you know and you need to handle right now. Mm-hmm. And then if something happens later, worry about it then. But the x-rays are necessary for, you know, for the problem that you are facing right now that's real.
Was that the pep talk you gave yourself?
Sure. And I'll tell you what, a lot of humor. Yeah. I have very dry, sarcastic humor, but if you don't laugh, you know, you're not going to make it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine you and your husband have developed like probably a kind of a dark comedy repartee amongst the two of you.
Well, it's kind of like he was the chauffeur and the bubble blower to keep Isaiah interested while I talked to the doctor. So
that's important.
Yeah, it's important because you have to keep Isaiah, you know, focused on something else so that I could actually have an adult conversation.
Yeah, sweetie, mom's got to go shatter a doctor's ego right now. Okay, so
that's right.
Some bubbles.
That's right. So we have one more visit with our doctor. It's actually going to be bittersweet. We've been seeing him since Isaiah was, you know, 9 months old, I think was our first visit. So, you know, it's you know, it's kind of bittersweet. We laugh about it now because, you know, I took in all that literature to him and he was so receptive with it, and he improved and improved and improved. Now can I say this? He's now the chief of staff there at the hospital. Yes. And, you know, he's knocking out. Okay, good. He's knocking out casts right and left, you know, just as perfect as can be. And so now we laugh about it, you know, now that Isaiah has one more visit, and boy, Isaiah's 6 foot tall. He's taller than the doctor, you know?
Oh my gosh.
And he's been holding at 8 degrees all this time. And so now we laugh about how we grew up together.
Yeah, you did.
Your doctor is a champion at this point in the United States.
He learned and he listened.
He's so dedicated to his kids, and that's what it takes. I can't say enough good things about that doctor.
Yes, absolutely.
I want to get a full update on Isaiah, but there's something that in one of your emails, Mel, that just kind of made me smile, because I know someone's gone to the school of Heather Hyatt when they say in all caps, "This kind of thing needs a 3-dimensional bed." And it's like there's not many people in the world would understand what that means. But
yeah, not many.
You do, and that's important.
Yes, yes, I preach. I mean, it's never going to leave my head. You know, over the just the proper way a cast should fit. I can quote it to you in my sleep, and I love Heather so much for that. But yes, you know, anymore, just we years ago, I used to be able to tell a patient, make sure you ask the doctor if they're applying meta casting. Well, that's not enough of a question anymore. You need to dig deeper now. Now you need to ask, what type of table are they casting on? Is it actually an EDF table? Is it the proper casting table? Because that isn't necessarily what is being used with the standard of care that was taught, as far as I know, which I'm not a doctor, but I tell one what to do sometimes. So anyway, so I think the thing that I would tell parents is ask questions and then ask a couple more questions.
Yeah.
There's never a wrong question. There's never a bad question. Knowledge is power.
And this is the age of information. So there's absolutely no excuse for anybody not to learn as much as they possibly can for their child's rapidly progressive spine. Again,
absolutely. If I could do it before Facebook, I mean, we are right there on Facebook, the support group. Wow. I mean, I'm on autism support groups all day long. I mean, I have never found women that I bond with, like Heather and a few of the other ladies on the group. I mean, we're lifelong friends. We just have a bond that will never be broken. And so people on this group really, really, really should take advantage of all the information that now there's enough of us that have been there long enough. We actually can give all of this information, and there's so much here. Just ask. We're here to support, to help, whatever you need. Just ask. That's why we're here at the support group, right? Information. Ask, ask, ask. That's the only way I found out.
I'm so glad you brought up the right, the right equipment to cast these children on. That's critical. And frankly, so are the proper materials.
Yes.
Meta casting is plaster casting. It's not pure
fiberglass.
No, it's not.
Not fiberglass.
It's plaster of Paris, which gives the surgeons the time they need to properly derotate the child's curve in the operating room. With the fiberglass, many of them feel that they're in a hurry because it dries too fast. You don't want, that's just one reason, just one, okay? Fiberglass is far too rigid. It does not breathe with the child at all. The skin issues that I have seen the past 2 weeks, in the past 2 weeks, I've had 2 families had to, rush to the emergency room to get their pure fiberglass Meta casts removed on an emergency basis because the skin wounds were developing so rapidly that if they didn't, 4 layers of epidermis would have been, destroyed, and then their next cast would have been delayed, hence the correction of their child's spine. It gets less and less as time goes on, folks. We have a window of time.
Yeah, it's just it's a waste of time.
We got to use the right frame. We got to go to doctors who are experienced. Don't waste your time with anything else. And Mel's a testimony, and Isaiah's a testimony to that.
Well, and it's so important because this gives people, this information gives them the confidence to advocate for themselves. Because they know that we know this is correct because it's worked in the past repeatedly. Kids' lives have been saved.
Absolutely.
I think about it all the time. I mean, I was so close to our Dr. Minnie Min Mehta. She was a scoliosis sufferer herself. It was diagnosed in the juvenile stage. I started working
Mhm.
with her in her 80s, so she had a good 70 years of life experience and at least 15 years of medical education to understand infantile, juvenile, adolescent scoliosis and what would work for these rapidly progressive curves. She had enough time to figure it out. She did it for 30
Uh,
years in Europe before I even brought her here.
You know, a spica table, not gonna do it. That's for your hips. It's not gonna, I mean, it's just not,
You
yeah.
can't
I'm not a
you
doctor,
can't
but
pass the kid
it's
on a
common
kitchen
sense.
table.
Yeah, I can do that.
And just for
I
reference for the
can
younger
too,
people,
but you know,
Mel just did Dana
Not
Carvey's George H.W. Bush's impression for Not Gonna Do It. That's a Saturday Night Live thing from the late
not
80s. They were
doing
not
that.
gonna do it. So, well, okay, tell us about this young man who let you borrow your laptop so you could join us today. How is he doing?
Well, he's very much computer whiz as I'm using his laptop, but only because he doesn't want to be here because this is
Oh,
boring
come on.
because we're adults. We're adults and we're talking about adult boring stuff that doesn't pertain to him. So why would he want to sit here and be involved? Because this has nothing to do with him. So that's a testament within
Yes,
itself
it
right
is.
there. Is this was all done when he was so young, and it was not only the perfect time to do it because his spine was growing so rapidly. To harness that growth time, of course, is when you need to do it, but they're young. They're young and they don't suffer in that cast. But even better, he doesn't remember it. They don't remember it. If he didn't have that casting done at that time, he would have gone through surgeries, have invasive surgeries, hardware in him. He'd probably still be having that done. And he sure in the heck would be remembering that.
a few halos if he was lucky.
And I don't think he'd be jumping on the trampoline and making basketball shots like he's doing now. Pretty sure not.
This might be weird.
So
Mel, I think I want you as my mom as well. Everybody needs an advocate like Mel out there. That's awesome.
Well, the thing I tell so many parents, like I said, I do this with autistic parents all the time, is you have to advocate for your child because if you don't do it, nobody else will.
Tell me.
So you have to find your voice because nobody is going to do it for you.
Tell me, are you connecting now? Are you connecting within the community? Are you talking to parents who are just entering this process, or have you been able to share your communication skills and help people out?
Under which platform are we talking?
Yes.
Because I got a lot of platforms.
Okay, where are you thriving right now?
Right now, a lot to do with the legislature, as far as some of what's going on with my son's on a waiver for his autism, a state waiver, and so a lot to do with
Medicaid,
insurance coverage and that type of thing. So advocacy group with the legislature or against the legislature, whichever way you want to look at it. And then of course, with Heather, anything and everything that she needs, try to be on the support group as much as I can, help out as much as I can. Heather, you can tell more. I'm sure.
I'd like to say something.
Yes, please.
Here's where Mel is thriving now.
A presentation by Heather Hyatt.
Here she goes.
Mel and I are launching the Lionheart Cast Club, where
That's awesome.
Our patients will receive a plaster Metacast according to their child-specific curve. Plaster. This is an Easter cast. Okay, cute as can be.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a part of the Lionheart Class Club, you will also get a little cooling vest.
Oh, that's
for
great.
the summertime. And
That's very helpful,
There
by
are
the way.
cooling cells on the front and the back. We provide a set of extra cooling cells so you can keep them cold in the cooler and take your child to the park for a few hours without overheating. The Lionheart,
Because that will
the
happen.
Lionheart Cast Club will provide a little container of Aquaphor, a big
Moleskin.
swatch of moleskin, you know, a calendar at the end of the year where you can see all the other Lionheart casting kits. And we are also going to provide casting care tips that you can have a refrigerator magnet, easy access to on the fridge. So we're
When you have such things as blowouts with diapers, because diapering is really interesting when you have casts.
girl.
But also, Heather, don't forget they can either they can use the Lion that we have if they would like to do that, or if interested, they could also send in their child's favorite stuffy, and that could be casted
Yes,
as well.
This is the most functional swag bag I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Well done.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This
It
is
helps
Heather.
babies, and it helps me continue providing this care to little babies, not only here, but around the world.
Everything really and truly is based upon donations. It really is. And so for me, the best way to give back is, you know, to help and to put the word out there. Hey, look what's being done. Look what Heather is doing to keep our kids to continue to be casted. And why not pay it forward a little bit and do what you can to keep the movement going? That's what we need.
So if we rewound 16, 17 years ago, were you able to see where you are now? Could you believe it that you were going to get through this?
Personally? Yeah. With everything or just with...
I don't know. I mean, just young mom, kid with multiple diagnoses and...
Well, I don't know about young, but gosh, here I always tell people the one superpower I would never want to have is seeing into the future. Because if I saw everything that was coming my way, forget it. I would never, ever, ever been able to go on. And even now, there's days I'm like, because right now I do, speech therapy, occupational therapy, water therapy, therapy, just. That's my life, therapy, just taking him to all these therapies. But you know what? I'm not taking him to an orthopedic surgeon. I'm not taking him for x-rays. I'm not taking him to pre-op. I'm not taking him in for surgery for his spine.
You're not having
there's one
respiratory function tests. He's breathing.
Exactly.
He's breathing big and strong. That's the whole goal.
And I'm 4'11". My child is 6 foot tall, but he does not realize that. So he wants to sit on mom's lap, which doesn't work out so well. But he would not be 6 foot tall had it not been for Heather, for Min Meta, for Olivia, little livers, and our doctor, our casting doctor, the doctor that learned, the pioneer doctor that allowed training to happen in the United States. I mean, the whole trickle down effect, that's just one really, really, really huge diagnosis that I don't have to think about every day. And could you imagine an autistic kid who doesn't understand so much, having to go through so much that he would have to go through?
Yeah.
I can't even fathom any of that for any child, but a child who does not understand what's going on. I love the fact that now he doesn't understand what's going on. He sees pictures of himself in a cast. He's like, I don't know who that is, He doesn't even, and he does have autism, but that doesn't mean he is not a relevant person. He does know things. He does do things, he learns. He could speak. I was always told he'll never walk. He'll never speak. He'll never learn to read. He'll never write. He'll never learn. He'll never do this. He'll never do that. Well, everything they said he'll never do, he does. And not only does he do it, but he goes above and beyond doing it.
Good for you.
So anybody that has maybe the thought process, if any doctor or hospital or a mother, a parent who may think, well, this child is special needs, they have low tone, or they have another condition other than scoliosis as a baby, and they think, well, why cast them? Why bother? They're not going to have a very good life in the future. What quality of life are they really going to have? Well, that's ridiculous, because my son is proven that every child is relevant. And no matter what they tell you they can and can't do in the future, you don't know that until you give them a chance.
Bravo.
And he's done it. He's still doing it.
That's fantastic. That was amazing right there. That Shakespearean soliloquy you just laid out for all of us. That is the passion of a mom right there, and very inspiring. Fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I just do what I gotta do. I'm just a mom.
Just a mom.
This is hair and makeup. This is something here. I don't do this every day.
Yeah, well, you are.
I'm just a mom. I'm just
There's
a
a
mom.
lot of just a moms out there who make this world go round, but you are fire. You are fire, Mel.
Right.
I tell you, what a great.
Well,
advocate.
I learned it. And I learned a lot from Heather. Yeah. I'll tell you, if it wasn't for Heather being, Heather, just being Heather, then I wouldn't be, Mel, Melissa, whatever you want to call me. There's been other more colorful words.
Well, you earned those. Those are like badges of honor.
Yes.
You set the bar pretty high, Mel.
Well, I doubt. I'm sure you'll get on there. And it'll be some athlete doing some stuff. So
No, this was amazing, and my best to Isaiah and the family. Sounds like an awesome kid.
Well, I'm sure you'll get plenty more awesomeness. I'm probably the first parent doing this.
Yeah, right? And like I said, you've raised the bar beyond.
Well, you haven't met the bar yet.
Well, I'll report back. I'll tell you about the bar.